All right, welcome. Okay, I think we're all caught up on Zoom. We'll let some people stream in here. Great. Well, first things first, automated translations are available for this Zoom session. And this is available by turning on the closed captions and selecting your language preferences seen there in step 1, 2, and 3. Matt, could you help me out with translating that in Japanese?
OK。日本語で入ってる方は、この Zoom の機能を使って自動翻訳機能があるので、そちらを有効にしてください。と、もし、はい。設定方法は、下のところの More というところから、はい。More じゃなくて、もしくはキャプションっていうところがあるのであれば、そこのところからトランスレーションのところをオンにできますので、ぜひ活用してみてください。以上です。
Thank you, Matt. Suha.
안녕하세요, 여러분. 이제 자막을 켜고 언어 기본 설정을 선택하여 사용하실 수 있습니다.
All right. Thank you both for helping me out there. Great. Well, it's time to have some fun here. So we'd love you to turn on your camera. This is about community, and so if we see your faces and smiles, we'll feel more like a community here. Utilize the chat window now. So if you pop it open and maybe get going in there, the chats are quite vibrant here. So that'll be the place where you kind of ask questions and react to things. And I love to see all that activity in there on the side of my screen. If you do speak, do be brief so you can let others share. This is an open forum, share only public information, nothing confidential. Be kind and inclusive, be respectful of other people's opinions. Share knowledge and not sales pitches. This is not the place to be selling. Great, so greetings. I'm Dean Bashi, the Director of Community for Asia Pacific and Japan. It is an absolute honor to be hosting this summit. For those of you who have already met, it's great to see you again. And for those of you who I've not yet met, let's get to know each other over the next 60 minutes or so, and perhaps see you on a community call coming up soon. So we have a star-studded agenda planned for you over the next hour, which includes not one, but 2 FinOps certified professionals. We'll cover FinOps X highlights, fresh from San Diego, California, focus, FinOps certified professional, certification, FinOps beyond public cloud. At the end of the hour, we'll answer your questions that you may have for our speakers. And so to that end, please ask your questions in the Zoom chat. And our team will kind of keep track of these things, and perhaps we'll get to your questions when we go live with the Q&A. So are we all ready, folks? Do we have any like hands of excitement here? This is hands of excitement. Okay, there's hands of excitement. Cool. Well, if you don't know, we're the FinOps Foundation, so member-based trade organization that represents a heck of a lot of cloud spend. Our purpose here is to advance the people who manage the value of cloud. That's you folks, so our purpose is you. We do this by connections and community, so a little bit of this and building community, education and certification, which many of you are aware of and have been certified, and best practices and standards. The framework itself is one good example of that. We're a small staff of 25 people in 6 countries dedicated to further advancement of this discipline. And on today's call, I think we represent a lot of the staff from across the country in different time zones, but we're very excited to be doing this for the Asia Pacific Japan region. Thank you again for being here. Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce J.R. Stormont, the Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation, co-author of the FinOps book. What you might not know about JR, however, is that he moved to San Diego last year specifically so he could be close to the home of FinOps X, which is in San Diego, California. So I'd like JR to kind of cover what happened this year at FinOps X in San Diego.
Thank you, Dean. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, JR Stormont. I think I've met a few of you in person, and definitely a few more on the internet over the years. Great to be here. Yeah, it's dark outside here. It's in the evening, about 8:30 at night. Thank you for the timer, Suha. Also, it's very strange for me actually to be on this end of the summit. I'm usually running the North America one, so it's great to just be here as a guest. Thanks, Dean and Suha, for all the work. So they asked me to come share some of the highlights from the conference that happened this last year to kind of get folks there ready and excited for the upcoming conferences as well. We're redoing the conference in 2025 in San Diego. We've got another version coming in Barcelona in just about 5 or 6 weeks. And so, Dean, you can go ahead to the next slide there. I want to share a little bit about some of the things that we've seen happen in the FinOps space in the last couple of years. So the first thing is that we've seen a real transition of FinOps moving from being an isolated discipline, a single team running it in an organization, to really being integrated in across a lot of different personas: engineering teams, finance teams, procurement, sourcing, business, product, executives, coming together, much like we see organizations doing security, which is security is everyone's job in the organization, although there is often a central team that helps enable that. And that's something we've seen broadly change in the last year or two. The next point there on the slide we're seeing is what we're cost-aware product decisions, which shorthand of that would be really shifting left of FinOps practices to earlier on in the process. Historically, FinOps teams were brought in after a product had shipped to get costs under control. We're now seeing the FinOps conversation happening all the way back at the architecture stages, sometimes even before a decision is made to launch and deliver a product. This is great because then by the time you launch products, you're actually already hopefully in line with your cost goals and targets. Huge theme we're going to touch on in this session later on, and we're seeing that really kind of took me by surprise how quickly it advanced in the last year or so, was FinOps started in public cloud. And a lot of you have seen right this old book, which talks about cloud FinOps. But now we're seeing FinOps really starting to be cloud plus something else, cloud plus private cloud, cloud plus SaaS, plus on-premise, plus other types of spend. So we've seen FinOps really start to move beyond just public cloud, particularly because businesses are saying, hey, FinOps team is managing public cloud really well. Can you give me this same level of visibility, allocation, optimization, and decision-making elsewhere? Next thing we're seeing is the introduction of carbon considerations into FinOps. Sustainability teams are interacting with the FinOps teams, and in that iron triangle decision-making of do I want it good, fast, or cheap, and making trade-off decisions, they're starting to put carbon in as one of the considerations. How do I deliver a product quickly that has lots of value, hopefully has low costs, and at the same time, can you do it while reducing my carbon emissions? We're seeing it's really important to include this as part of the larger conversations. We don't want to see carbon conversations carved off to the side. Should be integrated into discussions about speed, deliverability, cost, all these other areas, so you can make the right trade-off decisions for the business. Seeing a ton of buzz, obviously, about about AI in general. Specifically, this last year, we saw a lot of new questions about how to do FinOps for AI. So everybody talks about AI for FinOps. How can AI make FinOps better? But the flip side of that is, how do you manage the costs of using AI, Gen AI services, whether it be on premises or in cloud or anywhere else? So we're seeing a lot of interest and demand about getting better at managing those costs. And the last point there that we saw at the takeaway of the last conference really was that the change is constant in FinOps. As soon as you figure out, some set of your best practices for any of the FinOps framework capabilities, you add a new cloud, or you add AI, or you add carbon, or you add a new team, or this new acquisition that happens. And you've got to relearn how to do these capabilities in a new set of areas, a new scope of technology spend, and sometimes in a whole new way that you weren't considering. So these are the themes you're going to see us unpacking on this summit. It's going to be the themes you're going to see at FinOps X Europe in Barcelona in a couple of weeks, or in San Diego next June. And wanted to set that up as feeding the conversation. One of the projects that we've invested heavily in the last couple of years is this open source specification that you're going to hear about here shortly, called Focus, which is the FinOps open cost and usage specification. Sorry. I usually do this early in the morning with lots of coffee. It's the end of my day, so my words are less good. But pass to Dean and Mike and crew to tell you more about that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We're gonna get a little bit of recap on what it was like to be at FinOps X, to kind of go after JR's official announcements and topics were delivered, and see what it was like for Graham Murphy, Manager Cloud Business Office, Australian Retirement Trust, to experience FinOps X in person, and then pull him back on to talk a little bit about Focus afterwards. Graham.
Thanks, Dean. Hey, everyone. Good to see you all here. As Dean said, here to give you a little bit of insight into what FinOps X was like. This year was my first time out at FinOps X. So a little bit of background about myself. I look after our cloud business office at Australian Retirement Trust, a small team of FinOps practitioners that collaborate and partner with all of our business units around cloud usage, governance, compliance, etc. Dean, next slide. Thank you. So really, recapping about what FinOps X was, I went over with a couple of primary objectives. One was really to connect with the Focus working group. I'd been involved with that group from April last year, and had spent countless early mornings online, Zoom calls and chats and Slack channel talks around Focus. So I really was keen to get to meet everyone in person. So this was a good opportunity to do that, as well as see the official announcements around Focus as well. But a main thing for me as well was to see what I could find out from international organizations around FinOps. Being out on this side of the world, we're quite small. As everyone knows, we don't have a lot of meetups and so on all the time. So it was really good to get out and experience that. For me, though, some of the good takeaways were the keynotes. The keynotes were extremely powerful. There's a lot of good information that came out of them. I particularly liked Disney's talk around forecasting. It definitely set some good ideas in motion for myself as well and my team on how we could better our forecasting views. Focus, there was a lot of talk about it being a game changer. I certainly think it is. Being able to normalize billing data across clouds is something that we've tried to do for a long time, and Focus has made it a lot easier, but more on that a bit later. It was really good to see cloud providers announce their support for it as well. That was a couple of us sat in the room, sort of a pinch yourself moment. Love that. Vendors, exhibition hall, there are a lot. Lots and lots of vendors, more than I actually anticipated to see. But what was good from that is having a talk with all those vendors generated pretty good ideas around what you can and cannot do with FinOps. There was a lot of talk around AI, whether AI was good for FinOps or not, or if AI was there to help improve your FinOps practices. Lots of tools had AI built in. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of that. A lot of those talks with vendors helped myself take a lot of good ideas back to my team, and certain ways of looking at how you can optimize better, using tooling better, that sort of thing. And then the networking. Wow, the networking was absolutely incredible. The FinOps Foundation did an amazing job in keeping us socializing, in keeping us fed, hydrated in many ways. The nighttime events were quite a spectacle. Getting on that aircraft carrier was something else. If you've never been on one and you've never been there, that is definitely a highlight. Key takeaways, as I think I've gone through a few of them, but the keynotes, sustainability and AI were definitely everywhere. A lot of people are talking about sustainability. I know it's coming up here quite a lot now. AI, definitely. We are actively investigating AI, although investigating is the main word there, not using. From a maturity point of view, how JR mentioned, change is constant, not everyone is running. That resonated quite well with myself and my team as well. We we definitely see change all the time. We are constantly evolving. New teams come on, new products come on. We're always having to adjust the ways we do things. I certainly do hope that change does slow down a bit, but it does always mean we have to evolve.
Cool.
A couple of key takeaways there. Some pretty cool photos. There was a shot of our focus working group on the aircraft carrier. The foundation gave us a whole load of badges to wear. That felt kind of weird at first, but sort of like bragging rights. Once you saw everybody else wearing their badges, it was almost like a challenge to see how many more people could finish more exams. Definitely saw a few people go off at nighttime and finish some exams while I was there. And, really great socialization, really good meeting different people from different companies, lots of different collaboration opportunities that came out of that as well. So if you've never been, I definitely encourage you. It's an amazing experience, and one of the best conferences I think I've ever been to.
Awesome, Graham. Thank you so much for that. And we'll pull you back up here in a second to talk about focus. But I think you've forgotten the most important part of the whole situation, which is the swag. These are the FinOps Foxes. Yes. Great. Thank you. But now I know what you're thinking. That's great, Dean, but I wasn't able to attend this year. Well, so we're thinking of you. So you can now watch the keynotes and the breakout sessions by heading over to the FinOps X session library. So not only do we have 2024 there, but 2023 and 2022. This is one of my favorite ways to consume the amazing content from FinOps X. Being there is fun, but getting a lot more content than you can handle in 1 week is a thing. So you can actually, at home now, 2x speed or pause and play as you wish, soak up all of that amazing content. And so head over there after this session, this weekend, and check out all the amazing content. Cool. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Mike Fuller, the Chief Technology Officer of the FinOps Foundation and co-author of the FinOps book, to speak a little bit about Focus, which is the FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification. Mr. Mike.
Thanks, Dean, and welcome everyone. I love the fact that we all struggle to unpack the letters of Focus. But I'll give Dean and JR the pass. As I said, it's at night time for them. It's getting less and less now where we're joining calls and we're having to really explain what Focus is, but I will do a quick cover for those who haven't seen the project yet. But we are at a 1.0 of the Focus specification now, which was, as said, announced at FinOps X this year. And we saw the support from the major cloud providers alongside that. So what does that mean? Well, next slide. We have a Focus steering committee, which is made up, as you can see, of some really heavy hitters from the clouds, with Sarah, Roy, and Michael from Google, AWS, and Microsoft, respectively. But actually, really important on the steering committee is Anne Johnson and Tim O'Brien, both practitioners in this space. And so from the top of the project itself, it's led towards helping the FinOps practitioner. And then next slide, where the actual work starts to get done is in the Focus maintainers. Once again, seeing a lot of faces from both clouds, from FinOps vendors, from actual practitioners, from SaaS providers, and so we can see these are the people that are like really leaning in with a lot of their time, and then the whole member base of Focus members that have joined that are spending a lot of time debating every week all of the content that goes into the specification. Next slide. And so really what Focus is a specification that helps normalize billing data. Obviously we're talking cloud billing data, but we're seeing practitioners take not just the cloud billing data, but their SaaS billing data, their internal costs, like Jay was mentioning, where they're gone beyond public cloud. And they're utilizing the Focus specification to unify all that billing data into one location, so that then the FinOps practitioners themselves, their service providers and the tooling providers they're using can all utilize the Focus language. And all of this data really feeds into every individual FinOps capability. That underlying every FinOps capability is really the data that drives it. And so we think that having not just one cloud's data in one capability, or not just trying to bring two clouds pieces of data together in one capability, but having all of these channels of data being unified into underneath the FinOps capabilities will reduce the effort for practitioners to be able to get really good at doing FinOps. Next slide. Now, the specification itself is long and it's detailed and it's written in a very particular language that's, I don't find it very fun to read. But to make it easier for our practitioners out there to actually get familiar with what is the data schema of Focus, we have the Focus column library on the focus.finops.org website. This not only gives you the name of the different columns, but describes the column and its use and its value to you as a practitioner. And then next slide. Knowing what's the columns in the specification is one thing, but really we want to get this down to something that makes sense for your FinOps practice. And so we've also built out a use case library on focus.finops.org. There's use cases there, which basically detail all of the different times you're going to need or situations you're going to need data in order to do really good FinOps. And then within each of those entries in the use case, it unpacks the columns that relate to focus that are needed and even gives you some of the query to start that journey of doing the data analytics for the results that you need. And we're going to continue to build on this, and I'll talk about how we're going to do that in a second. If we go next slide. So the analysts are really excited about this. We're seeing analysts say that your tooling vendors aren't keeping up or getting on board with Focus, that they're really lagging behind. As we mentioned, the big clouds are now all supporting having a Focus data export, and so we do believe this is sort of the beginning of a very, very exciting change in the industry for how we all sort of run our business of running FinOps practices in our businesses. So next slide. And then, so having the big cloud providers on board, the first step for every practitioner in the room really is to go and turn on those data sets. And so to help you get started with that, we have on the Focus FinOps.org website, we have linked you to the right locations for each of the cloud providers that you're using. Go straight to their docs on the steps you need to follow. And if you take one thing out of this whole section, it should be that you're going to go back to your computers, to your desks, and go turn on these data sets from your cloud providers. This does two things. It signals to the cloud providers that you're interested in Focus, and secondly, it gives you access to the data, your cloud billing data in Focus format, which helps you inform what this project's doing and so where it's heading, and also starts to form some feedback that you might have for us. And so to link with that, next slide. And so, we sort of see this coming in a few different channels here. There's the I need to know more. I'm curious about what it is. So talks like this, but also in our chat-focus in our Slack community, we will have focus specific community calls that will help sort of give you the chance to sort of ask the wanting to get started questions. We have an Intro to Focus course, which is free on our learn.finops.org website, which will give you sort of the grounding of like what this is and answer those basic questions. And then I want to use Focus is really where you get to once you've figured it out what it is. So as I said, turn on those Focus data sets. You really should be getting to this point so that you're at least coming along this journey with us. And then I mentioned the feedback. We are starting to set up Focus-specific user groups. So these are going to be a user group you join, and then we'll have different sessions like this, but dedicated to deeper dives into Focus. And that will open up a channel for practitioners to give that feedback of what they need, what's stopping them, what's really great about it, so that we can continue that open channel of practitioners straight into the Focus project. And then we have a certified Focus analyst course on learn.finops.org, which is a paid course, but much deeper dive into the Focus data sets themselves. And then if you want to, or you're in a good position with a long history of using FinOps data, you can join the actual Focus project itself, which will allow you to get into those conversations about what specifically is going in the specification. And so there's sort of two channels there. There's the practitioner voice in the user group. That's just that I want to tell you what I want to see. And then there's the joining Focus itself in getting into those conversations about moving things forward. Next slide.
I think that's it, Mr. Mike. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
cool.
being here. I feel I need to redeem myself. FinOps open costs and usage specification. FinOps open costs and usage specification. I can't even say it more than twice in the same row. Practice that when you get home after work today, folks. Appreciate you. I'd like to bring back Graham now to kind of give us the practitioner's perspective of focus and why you might have begin walking down the path of adoption, Graham.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, so focus, when it started to take form, really started to resonate with myself and my team about how we could get better at how we report and use and analyze our billing data. We'd been trying for quite some time to do it manually. We are multi-cloud, so we've got an Azure footprint and a Google footprint. And this led down the path of having very different types of reporting capability. Within Google, we had a lot of manual processes. We had to keep reverting back to the Google cost management portal, which not everybody has access to. We had to use Looker to do error checking, and we just couldn't get it to really work in Power BI, mostly because the raw data from Google is BigQuery nested tables, and Power BI just doesn't like that. From an Azure point of view, there was also still a lot of manual work in there, but not as much. We had a pretty well bedded down process on that one, linked with the cost management API into Power BI. But this was very slow, very difficult to manage at times. We had size issues. Trying to publish reports kept breaking. The API would fail. We would have data sets that were inaccurate. So focus brought on a whole new challenge in a way, but led us to, change the slide, is Dean, a consolidated view. So we started out this little journey at the beginning of the year. I call it a super fast sprint for us. We have a team that are not technical, and we had to build a technical solution to make this work. So we leveraged the Microsoft FinOps toolkit to set the base for this work, and built this new FinOps hub in Azure with some security, monitoring, and access management in place, automation and transformation, which was done through automation accounts and Azure Data Factory, and then storing everything in a couple of data lakes. This process allowed us to bring in the data from multiple cloud providers, because we were exporting the data with as focus formatted data already, which made transformation pretty simple because there was none. It was all done by the cloud providers for us, but also meant that the file sizes we had were smaller, the data needs were less, we could do more with it. So with that, we built a whole new Power BI dashboard, which brought both cloud providers' data into one table into Power BI. And in the little example on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can see an example of what our Power BI multi-cloud dashboard looks like now. We have, I'd call it a dashboard, but it's an app. We've got a number of different reports in that app, and it gives us a single view in a way of, or the same type of view across multiple cloud providers now. So we can switch providers, get the same data or the same view. So it makes it very easy for us to see in an almost like-for-like way what our costs are like, what our usage patterns are like, where we might have weird anomalies show up, that sort of thing. So it's really simplified how we manage our cloud billing data. And I think that, this has got great potential for other types of data sources as well. We are working on data beyond public cloud at this point in time. Thank you, Dean.
Awesome, Graham. Thank you very much. And I would point out that Graham is very active on FinOps Slack in the focus channel, not to volunteer your time, but hint, he's there. Also available for questions afterwards here, so queue them up if you please. Cool. I'm going to pull, I think I'm pulling JR back up. Yeah, here. And talking a little bit about some training and certification paths, some new exciting things happening.
Thanks, Dean. So one of the things that we get a lot of questions about, particularly as the training portfolio and catalog has expanded, is what is the right one to take for not just, the individual, but the team around them. So we've tried to do some better work about defining some learning paths. And we've added, for those of you who haven't keep watching the last couple of months, we've added a few new things. So one is just a very introduction level, what is FinOps course. It's available. It's free on learn.finops.org. You can sign up for it. Many people as you want. We've had like literally thousands upon thousands of people sign up for this in the last couple of months. And it just gives you the basics. So that's a good thing to give to anybody in the company who's like, what is this FinOps thing you're talking about? Like, can you explain that to me? Or to your executives or somebody who just needs the basics. A lot of you have like FinOps Certified Practitioner, which is the core certification we've had since 2020 or 2019. That one is still valid. It's being updated with new framework improvements and things as they come out, excuse me. But we see that really as sort of like the prerequisite for the deeper courses that are now available. Anybody who's touching FinOps in the organization, interacting in a sort of not direct ownership aspect should have that FinOps Certified Practitioner, maybe finance team people, procurement people, those who are interacting with FinOps and not running it. We do see the FinOps Certified Professional as the one that is now the best course to take if you are building and running the FinOps practice. It's going to focus on the deeper, like, how do we get this going in the organization? It'll go much more deeply into all the individual capabilities and help get you plugged into a cohort of peers. And obviously, a lot of things we've been talking about with today are focus related. So there is also a free focus course that we recommend everybody take just to get aligned on how to talk about focus. If you're going to be using focus data, though, there's an analyst course, Focus Analyst, that really helps unpack the terminology, the language. One of the coolest things about focus in my mind that I don't think we talk enough about is that it means that if you go hire somebody who's working somewhere else and bring them into your FinOps team and they're using focus there, they already know you're reporting. Or if you go work somewhere else and you bring in a consultant, or you go talk to your cloud vendor, or you work with a new platform provider and they're using focus, everybody has the same language. We're all using the same terms. We know what the metric definitions mean, and there's a lot of talent portability, right? It enables people to move around and hire new consultants or jobs or platforms, all those things. So the more exposure we can get in the organization to the focus terminology and trainings, the better for all of us in that aspect.
Awesome. Thank you, JR. Well, speaking of FinOps Certified Professional, I'd like to introduce you to a FinOps Certified Professional. Sarah Gadala is Principal Cloud FinOps Analyst at Atlassian and is indeed a FinOps Certified Professional. We thought we'd bring Sarah on to describe and talk about the impact of getting certified and her decisions around getting certified. So, Sarah.
Cool. Thanks, Dean, and hi, everyone. So those of you who don't know me, Dean has already introduced me, but I'm also one of the FinOps Foundation ambassadors in the region, and I host the Sydney FinOps meetup. So if you're based in Sydney, I'll be more than happy to meet you in one of our meetups. So a question that I sometimes get asked of why I had the Pro certificate and what's the difference between the Pro and the Certified Practitioner? What would the Pro add to me or added to me when I took it? So just a bit of context / history about myself. I took the Certified Practitioner course when I started my career in FinOps almost 4 years ago. I remember that was in 2020. I had then read the FinOps book and been working with FinOps for a couple of months. So it was a good introduction and it gave me a good foundation about the FinOps concepts, terminologies, and got me started on my journey. Now, 4 years fast forward, I've been leading the FinOps practice in Atlassian for over 18 months now. A lot of things had changed in FinOps and Atlassian. Challenges are different. There are more things to cover and learn about. We're no longer talking about low-hanging fruits. We are deep diving in various topics and capabilities. And I felt the need to learn more about these in depth. So when I started the FinOps practitioner course, like the Pro one, it was interesting because as a FinOps lead who's been doing this luckily within a mature FinOps practice, probably a lot of you know that Atlassian has a very mature FinOps team. A lot of the topics resonated with me. I have to say there were some good validations because some of the things we're already doing and running as a state which ironically, I thought that we're the only team or company doing these things that way. So just seeing the same things being a standard or a benchmark within the course, it was a good validation. And of course, there were a lot of learnings in areas like where we needed to improve, and it kind of helped me think outside the box or inspired me with ideas of things we could start on or improve or tackle differently. Also, I have to say that the real-time interaction with the peers in the interactive sessions, like if maybe you don't know, but the course includes 2 4-hour interactive sessions with peers from all over the globe, not just the region you're in, but it could be people from different regions as well. So these real-time interaction with the peers from all over the globe during the interactive sessions were great. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity to interact and work with other practitioners from different markets and industries and different challenges. I thought that the 4-hour session would be long, and to be perfectly honest, I was dreading it. But it wasn't at all, actually. It turned out to be so much fun. I didn't feel the 4 hours, and I gave this feedback to the instructor that I didn't at all feel the 4 hours. It was very well structured. I really enjoyed the live interactions, the discussions with other practitioners, and the connections that I made from these. They were definitely special, and I'm still keeping in touch. And actually, one of the people that I met during FinOps X, he took the FinOps Practitioner, the pro course with me, the first session, and he inspired me to finish it, because when we met in X, he had done it, he was certified, and I told myself, man, I've been putting this on the side for a while. So after X, I kind of decided I'll lock in time, I'll get it done. So it was good to meet him and connect with him in X, and also he inspired me to be a little bit quick and stop procrastinating this. So if you find yourself maturing in your FinOps practices or progressing from crawl to walk or run, and you want to align what you're doing to the best practices of FinOps and the FinOps framework, the FinOps Pro certificate will simply help you do that in a structured manner and enable you to start and lead a FinOps practice within your organizations. So for the capabilities like we were crawling and walking in, it helped me identify how we can tackle them better and have a structured approach and guidelines. And like for the ones that we were running in, it kind of gave me the confidence in what we're doing, or even identify areas that we can tweak or do even better. So yeah, that's briefly my story with the Pro certificate. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. I'm also available on the Slack channel anytime. But yeah, definitely recommend it to anyone, especially those of you who are starting or leading a FinOps practice within their organization, or they want to jump into that role. It's definitely a good opportunity. So yeah, best of luck to everyone. And thanks, team, for this amazing course and content. I really, really enjoyed it.
Amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much. Articulate and amazing as usual. Sarah will be around at the end of the session here if you have any questions for a little bit of time. But if you'd like to be like Sarah, the good thing is we've reduced the price of Pro by half. So you can go there and join and get the experience like Sarah had and become a FinOps certified professional today. So appreciate you for sharing, and let's move on. Okay. Let's explore something different. Let's go beyond the public cloud and explore a new world with another guy named Dean Oliver. By the way, when Dean joined, I felt kind of bad because I like being the only Dean, but it's kind of nice having 2 Deans here. Dean joins us. Did Dean actually join? Yeah, there you go, at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. The UK Director of Community, FinOps Foundation, his official title. Dean has spent 15 years at Accenture working in the technology strategy group, where he was the global leader for the FinOps capabilities there. And the services encompassed FinOps, TBM, Tech ROI, PPM. Needless to say, he has vast insights to support this topic. Dean, thank you very much for being here this afternoon and early morning.
Thanks, Dean. And good morning, everyone, from very early in England. Thanks for the introduction, Dean. I think you give a lot of context there on sort of my background. It's very, very exciting to be part of the staff for the FinOps community. And I was part of the FinOps community on the Accenture side in the very early days. I even sat on the TAC, the Technical Advisory Council, as the foundation was just starting out and emerging. So it's great to be on the other side now and meet everyone and start to meet everybody. So on the topic, why FinOps beyond public cloud? I had a recent quote in some of the working groups that I was kicking off that FinOps teams have been a victim of their own success. and they're a victim of their own success in how well it's benefited organizations that have been adopting it and starting to see the value from FinOps. And we're starting to see a huge amount of teams be challenged into expanding their existing capabilities, their existing tooling and collaboration with all of the intersecting disciplines around this topic by the business to provide that increased bottom-up, real-time, granular data insights and transparency to inform proactive decision making, not just in the public cloud, but across all of their technology spend or components of their technology spend where they think they can get more value from that existing team. What I want to do with everyone on the call now, before we drop into some of the challenges that have been faced and some of the practical things that can be done about it, is just go into a quick poll with everyone, and we'll give you a minute or two just to answer this. But we want to visualize what environments and platforms our FinOps community members are being asked to expand into now, and also are likely or have been asked to expand into in the next 12 months. So if you can just start to answer the question that's on your screen, we'll start to see some of the responses come up, and then we can just give you a bit of a summary of those results. Can everyone see that okay, I hope?
Indeed, I am seeing the answers stream in, so we'll have to start taking bets on what the results will be.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'll take bets from the other side. I can't see the answers right now.
I was betting the other Dean that the numbers would be very different from the North America group, and it's actually pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
A few more minutes, a few more minutes to see as this comes in. We've got about half of you voting so far. Anybody want to guess what the top one is? Drop it in the chat if you haven't already voted. AI. Oh, interesting. SaaS, yeah. All the above. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. If everybody's voted, we got about a little more than half of you completed it. Here we go. End poll, and survey says, there you go, Dean.
Wow.
Did I win? I don't know.
I think you did win. I thought that SaaS would be lower. I think we only hit about 60+% SaaS in the US. So yeah. Sorry, Dean Oliver, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, thank you. So as everyone can see with the poll results on screen now, SaaS and licensing are coming out very, very high in terms of the majority of our practitioners and FinOps teams are being asked to expand into this space. But as you can see, closely following already is data center and private cloud with the bolt-ons of sustainability and AI across the entire patch. So it really is emerging FinOps beyond public cloud, and not every organization, as you've seen there, will be asked, but there's a huge amount of our practitioners and organizations being asked to do this depending on their IT landscape and the costs that are coming into the IT landscape that are being allocated, showed back or charged back to the business. For those that are now seeking to understand how this cost can be done in the most optimal, efficient and collaborative way, we really need to make sure that we're helping them and we're providing answers to those questions. So the biggest aim right now is to better help the business understand the real-time, bottom-up, granular, total cost of ownership of their products and services across the materially impacting technology costs, whether that be public cloud, SaaS, if you've seen, the licensing, or further into data centers and private cloud and so on. And that will help them to make the value-based decisions on not just usage, but workload placement, product viability, and the business revenue and profitability type based decisions. And as you can see on the screen there, that's just trying to really simplify and set out that challenge and aim. And it's something that we're going to be working through over the next few months and even longer with the working group that's been set up and with the community to really understand how we can address this and in the best practical way and most pragmatic way to address this with the community. So if we just move on to the next slide. What we're trying to think about here, and this is definitely not exhaustive and things that will be explored in the working group and with the community over the next period, but we want to look, as I said, about the pragmatic use of the existing skills and capabilities in the FinOps framework, because that's what's provided the success and that's what we need to leverage further, but also look at the agreed tangible actions that will in some cases be custom depending on those platforms you're using that an organization needs to take to achieve success. So let me just drop into a couple of these to give a flavor, and then these will start to be unpacked in various different insights, papers, and publications over the next few months. So on the skills and capabilities side, data analysis. FinOps teams are already used to working with hugely large, extremely large data sets that come at high frequency, that come from numerous sources, or they certainly did before Focus was coming in to standardize it, but they provide services that drive bottom-up, automated real-time insights. It's not proactive end-of-month reporting. It's not reactive end-of-month reporting. It's proactive, continuous real-time insights, supports in anomaly detection, supports in upfront proactive decision making, and it goes direct to the consumers and decision makers. That's one of the big things they're looking for the teams to leverage as we move into beyond public cloud. And factor that in with the collaborative culture. And we need to make sure that we're continuously driving that culture across the finance teams, procurement, engineering, leadership, and also how to evolve and continue working with the intersecting disciplines to provide the continuous capabilities across each of those different platforms and cost bases that you're going to bring in. And then with the existing capabilities themselves, like onboarding workloads, that should include total cost of ownership. It should include value decision points to evaluate where an application should be moved to, where it should be created upfront, and then overlay that with the allocation and the tagging and the invoice chargebacks so that it's done consistently, whether the resources are physically in the data center or they're in the public cloud. So the comprehensive relationship with finance to ensure the consistency across all technology costs is going to be critical to make sure you can get that normalization no matter where the technology spend's coming from. Then on the practical steps and the pragmatic actions that can be taken, there's some examples here, but really cost allocation rules, for example, data centers should use showback and chargeback models like those in the public cloud. You should be trying to drive towards a consumption-based transparent allocation and not rest on black box type charging models where the business can't understand exactly what they're paying for, why they're paying for it, what products are paying for it, or what applications are paying for it, that are driving their profits, their revenue, their operations, and so on. Then standardizing the billing model. Ideally, we'll start to use focus data sets across this entire landscape, and it will provide a way to integrate the billing, allocation, and chargeback to each of the different user groups, irrespective of the cost base coming through. And then there's other areas that are being explored into. So do you want to include the non-tech costs to make sure you're getting that full total cost of ownership and the allocation of them? Do you want to make sure that you're unifying the forecasting models and account for workload demand, utilization projections, hardware depreciation cycles? There's so many different considerations that the teams will need to look into depending on what they're being asked to do. And that Paul highlighted some of the areas that the teams are being asked to do and the considerations that will need to be made when you're looking at these two bases around the capabilities and the practical steps. So if you just move on to the next slide. So to summarize, the biggest benefits that we're seeing around this and for the teams that are being asked to do this is the acceleration to meet the aim through using well-established capabilities, tools, and collaboration that the existing FinOps team has set up across the organization and across the intersecting disciplines, and to leverage those to accelerate the aim that was set out at the beginning. And that is going to provide the business a single real-time pane of glass for TCO data to look at both the cost in a proactive way and also the value in a reactive way so that they can make those business decisions. And with these simplified ways of working, that will drive to one end goal for the business, irrespective of the technology costs coming through. It will give clear end-to-end responsibilities, clear end-to-end interaction between teams and disciplines, and it will drive towards a more product-based FinOps in support of customer cost optimization, business profitability, and really help to normalize all of the technology spend coming through. So what next? There's a working group being set up to begin to discuss all of this topic in detail and really formalize what can be done with the existing FinOps capabilities and the actions in order to support the teams being asked. And then there's community calls similar to today in the usual regional community calls where this topic will be discussed and input will be fed back into the final papers and outputs and insights. And then there's a Slack channel, which you can see on the screen there as well, which we'd love everybody to start collaborating in and putting in their ideas. And we'll be making sure we keep track of that to form some of the views and opinions that do go out. That's everything from me. Back over to you, Dean. Thank you so much.
Dean, thank you very much. Really appreciate you. You performed very well early in the morning. You deserve a cup of coffee. We'll pull you back on for a question or two in a second. And welcome to the FinOps Foundation. I will not ask you to get up that early often. Warning, JR, if you're eating ice cream, we're moving on to you. I'd like to pull JR back in to talk a little bit about FinOps X in Europe coming up November 11th, my birthday. JR.
Happy birthday, Dean, in advance. This conference is also happening on my wife's birthday, so that was well timed. And yes, I was in fact eating ice cream because when it's 9 p.m. and I'm doing a summit, I figured ice cream was in order. So yeah, so this conference, I wanted to share with this group. I know it's a little far for y'all, but this is actually a one-time shot. We're only doing the European conference in Barcelona this coming year. So it's about 46 days. It's really soon. It's coming right up. Very similar format to the US conference in terms of multiple days and, big keynote rooms, as well as breakouts and chalk talks, a lot of different topics. You can hit the next screen there. The main things we're focusing on across from all the other general FinOps topics are how to get your hands wet with Focus, how to implement Focus, how to start using it. A lot of conversations about both FinOps for AI as well as AI for FinOps. We started with more FinOps for AI in the content, and a lot of the speakers are doing AI for FinOps conversations as well. I would say majority of speakers are touching on one of these FinOps beyond public cloud concepts that we've talked about in here, as well as cost-aware product decisions. I'm gonna put somebody on the spot here to talk in just a minute. We have one of our speakers from Adobe on the line, Neha, if she wants to jump in here in a minute. But some really good content coming through. Some people coming from Asia Pacific and Japan as well. And I saw the note question about when we're doing FinOps X Asia. We hope to in the future. We're working on building the community. It took us a few years before we did one in North America, and about 3 or 4 we did one in Europe. So we're trying to get this community from 150 people on the phone to many more, so we can do a bigger conference there. So spread the word and help us get to the point where we can do a conference there as well. If you can hit the next slide, lots of great sessions at this event. Brands you'll recognize: Mercedes and Adobe and SAP and Electrolux and a
Heineken.
lot of Heineken, our first beer brand speaking. Although we did have Anheuser-Busch at the US conference. So I would say, kind of regardless of where you are in your adoption, or the challenges, there's going to be something in here for you. Chalk Talk is a fairly new format we're doing. It's like a 90-minute session that is whiteboards and a small group of people in a room working through details. So check out the sessions. Even if you're not attending, bookmark them so you remember what you want to watch for later when the videos come out. The videos of this will come out. And then the reason I wanted to include this slide, other than thanking all of our great sponsors who are supporting and exhibiting at the conference, is we're going to have the majority of the large cloud providers there with their product teams to meet people. And I say their product teams, these are the teams from Microsoft and AWS and Oracle and Google, who are based typically out of Seattle at the headquarters of these organizations, and they're building the the cost products and the Cur files and the BigQuery exports, the teams actually working on those will be at the conference in Barcelona to sit down and meet with people and discuss, their offerings. I think a lot of them are going to do, private sessions. If you're an NDA customer with them as well, we can get time with them without having to go to Seattle, which I guarantee you Barcelona at this time of year is going to be a lot nicer than Seattle at that time of year. So yeah, definitely take a look at these folks and thank them for their support of the conference and the community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, JR. Appreciate that. Hope to see a lot of your faces there, not just because it's my birthday, but because Barcelona is amazing. And if we can't see you there, let's see you in San Diego next year, which is an amazing venue as well. So here we go. It's nice in summits, which I hope to be doing more now in the Asia Pacific region. As JR kind of mentioned, more FinOps in your time zone is our goal here. And it's nice to announce new stuff that has been put out there on the FinOps site. And so here's a couple examples here. Usage optimization opportunities. This asset focuses on providing the collection of resources to help identify types of cloud cost waste by service provider, including links to additional tools. So super cool. You can sort each card by cloud provider, savings potential, and each card includes stories by FinOps practitioners, playbooks, documentation, and even code examples. So very cool usage optimization opportunities. KPI playbooks. KPIs have been around a while on the site, but we have 7 new playbooks, which I think someone will probably post something somewhere, but they'll help you actually implement these KPIs and make it much easier to instrument your FinOps practice. So a lot more to go towards using KPIs in your practice. And then adopting FinOps paper from the working group. The paper is a resource designed for individuals who are looking to for the organization to adopt FinOps. So if you're kind of like at the beginning here, use this paper and this information in the paper gives you the steps to take, kind of who to involve and guidance on adoption. So awesome new working group assets coming out almost every week here. And speaking of community, if you didn't already know, I have 6 community calls rotating every few months or so. And we have some coming up October 17th, Australia, New Zealand, India, North and South, and November 6th, ASEAN, Japan, and Korea. For those of you that have joined, we have a good time. And for those of you who haven't joined yet, go ahead to the finops.org/events and sign up, and we'll get you going there.
Thank you for watching. We hope to see you during our next virtual summit. In the meantime, check out previous summits or the rest of our YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.